When the smell of your mother's crock-pot meant dinner was ready and Saturday morning cartoons were appointment television, American childhood in the 1970s moved to a rhythm we'll never hear again. These shared experiences shaped an entire generation, simple joys we didn't know were precious until they vanished. Join me as we rediscover 14 beautiful memories that will transport you straight back to your 1970s childhood. Dinner happened at 6 o'clock sharp. Every single night, the entire family gathered around the table without question. Dad carved the roast. Mom served from dishes passed around counterclockwise. The television stayed off. The phone went unanswered. That hour belonged to family, to conversation, to the ritual of breaking bread together. This wasn't rigid formality or outdated tradition. It was the daily thread that held families together, the sacred time when everyone's day intersected, when children learned conversation and parents stayed connected to their kids' lives. Meals followed predictable patterns. Meatloaf Monday, Taco Tuesday, Fish Stick Friday. Everyone had their assigned seat. You said grace, asked permission to leave the table, and stayed until the meal ended properly. The erosion began slowly in the late 70s with more mothers working. By the 80s, microwaves and fast food made individual meal times possible. By the 90s, family dinners had become the exception rather than the rule. We gained convenience and flexibility certainly, but we lost those daily touchstones, those guaranteed moments of connection that taught children how families work and that they mattered enough to gather for. Picture this. Saturday morning, 7 a.m. You wake before your parents, pad downstairs in your pajamas, and position yourself 3 feet from the television. A bowl of sugary cereal balanced on your lap, eyes glued to the screen. For 4 precious hours every Saturday, cartoons ruled. Scooby-Doo, the Super Friends, Looney Tunes, Schoolhouse Rock between shows. You watched whatever aired because there were no other options. Every kid in America was doing exactly the same thing at exactly the same time. This wasn't just entertainment or babysitting by television. It was shared cultural experience, the common ground that every child stood on Monday morning at school, the stories you all knew by heart. The ritual was sacred. You memorized commercial jingles for toys you'd beg for at Christmas. Schoolhouse Rock songs taught you multiplication and grammar better than any teacher. Cable television arrived in the early 80s, offering cartoons beyond Saturday mornings. By the 90s, dedicated cartoon channels broadcast 24/7. Today, children stream whatever they want whenever they want. We gained unlimited access, certainly, but we lost that collective experience, that anticipation that made Saturday morning magical, and that shared foundation that connected every American kid. Do you remember when "Be home when the streetlights come on" was the only rule? When entire neighborhoods of children disappeared into summer evenings and nobody worried. You left after breakfast and didn't return until darkness fell. Kickball games in empty streets, elaborate hide-and-seek spanning multiple yards, building forts in woods. The neighborhood was your kingdom. The streetlights flickering on was the universal signal to sprint home. This wasn't parental neglect or different times being safer. It was childhood rooted in community, in physical freedom, in the understanding that children learned by doing, exploring, and occasionally failing without adult intervention. Every kid on the block played together, ages mixed naturally. You made your own rules, settled your own disputes. Your parents had no idea exactly where you were, just that you were outside playing. The shift began in the early 80s with increasing stranger danger messaging. By the 90s, supervised playdates had become normal. Today, children playing unsupervised outside is rare enough to prompt concerned calls. We've gained safety and supervision perhaps, but we've lost that childhood freedom, that neighborhood community, and that independence that taught kids to navigate the world on their own terms. When the Sears Christmas Wish Book arrived in the mail, it was an event. That thick catalog became your Bible for 2 months. You dog-eared pages, circled items in pen, memorized prices. Star Wars figures, Barbie dream houses, Hot Wheels tracks. The anticipation was almost better than Christmas morning itself. This wasn't just shopping or wishful thinking. It was the ritual of longing, of choosing, of that beautiful space between wanting and getting that taught delayed gratification and made receiving more meaningful. You studied it like homework, negotiated with siblings over sections. Parents marked pages with their own notes. The toy section was a temporary world you could inhabit through imagination alone. The catalog continued into the 90s, but lost significance as toy stores dominated. The final Wish Book appeared in 2011. Today, children scroll through endless Amazon listings, receiving items within days. We've gained instant access, certainly, but we've lost that annual ritual, that shared anticipation, and that magical period of yearning that made Christmas morning feel truly miraculous. One phone hung on the kitchen wall, its coiled cord stretched from years of teenagers pulling it into closets for privacy. You dialed by rotating a mechanical wheel. If someone was on the line, you got a busy signal. You couldn't leave a message. You just tried again later. This wasn't inconvenience or limited technology. It was communication that required intention, planning, and the understanding that not every thought needed immediate expression. That patience was built into connection. Long-distance calls were expensive events. If you wanted to talk to a friend, you called their house and spoke to their parents first. "Hello, Mrs. Johnson. May I please speak to Tommy?" Phone conversations happened in full view of the family. Touch-tone phones arrived in the late 70s, became standard in the 80s. Cell phones destroyed the family phone entirely by the 2000s. We communicate instantly now, certainly, but we've lost that mindfulness about connection, that respect for others' time, and those boundaries that kept communication special rather than constant. Every house looked the same, and it was beautiful. Dark wood paneling covered basement walls, deep shag carpet in harvest gold or avocado green covered floors. Macrame plant hangers held spider plants. Console television, velvet sofa, beanbag chair. The aesthetic was universal and comforting. This wasn't lack of individuality or poor taste. It was shared culture, the visual language of an era when following trends meant belonging rather than conforming. Kitchens had harvest gold appliances and Formica countertops. Bathrooms featured colored fixtures. The smell of your friend's house was identical to your own because everyone used the same products, cooked the same foods, lived the same way. Home design began diversifying in the 80s. By the 90s, the 70s aesthetic was considered dated. Today, everyone's home looks different, curated for social media. We've gained personal expression, certainly, but we've lost that comforting sameness, that sense of shared experience that made every house feel like it could be home. You didn't pump your own gas. An attendant in uniform appeared at your window. "Fill her up." They pumped your gas, checked your oil, washed your windshield, checked your tire pressure. All included. Service stations had mechanics who knew your family by name. This wasn't just convenience or old-fashioned service. It was human connection built into everyday errands, jobs that provided dignity, the understanding that service meant actual personal interaction. Gas stations gave away free glasses with fill-ups, toy promotions, printed maps. They were destinations. Attendants were neighbors, people you saw weekly, who remembered your kids' names. Self-service gas slowly emerged in the late 70s, became common in the 80s, dominated by the 90s. Today, full-service stations are rare oddities. We've gained speed and lower costs, perhaps, but we've lost those moments of human connection, those jobs that provided dignity, and that expectation of service that made daily life feel more civilized. Television didn't broadcast all night. It ended. Around midnight, programming stopped. The station played the national anthem over footage of American flags. Then the screen went to a test pattern with a high-pitched tone. That was it. No more television until morning. This wasn't limited entertainment or corporate inconvenience. It was built-in boundaries, the physical reminder that days ended, that rest mattered, that not everything needed to be available at all times. The test pattern remained until morning programming. Television was a schedule your family followed, not an on-demand service. The national anthem at sign-off was a daily reminder of shared citizenship. 24-hour programming began in the late 70s with cable networks. By the 80s, something was always on. Today, content never stops. We've gained constant access, certainly, but we've lost those natural stopping points, those built-in moments that said, enough, and that shared experience of television being a limited resource. Baseball cards came with flat pink gum and wax paper packs for a quarter. You ripped them open, flipped through to see what you got. You traded duplicates with friends, organized them in shoeboxes, memorized player statistics. Comic books cost 25 cents. You bought them at spinning racks, read them cover to cover, swapped them with neighborhood kids. This wasn't just collecting or childhood hobbies. It was the ritual of physical ownership, of things you could touch and trade, of face-to-face negotiation and shared passion given tangible form. Trading required social skills. You learned negotiation, fairness, patience. The imperfection was the point. Cards got damaged from bicycle spokes. Comics got creased. This was childhood being lived, not preserved. The collectibles boom of the 80s and 90s transformed cards and comics into investments. Today, they're bought in sealed cases, preserved in plastic, traded online. Children don't buy them anymore. We've gained preserved value certainly, but we've lost the pure joy of childhood collecting, the social fabric of neighborhood trading, and the understanding that things were meant to be used, not preserved. Photos were expensive and rare. Film cost money, developing cost money, so you took pictures carefully. 24 exposures per roll meant 24 chances. Polaroid cameras were magic. You pushed the button, and a blank square slowly revealed an image. You waved it in the air, watched faces emerge. This wasn't technological limitation. It was mindfulness built into memory making, the understanding that preservation was precious, that moments captured were truly special, because they were selected from all the moments that passed unrecorded. Family photos came back from the developer weeks after the event. You gathered around to look through them, reliving the vacation or birthday. Photo albums were assembled by hand, became family treasures. Digital cameras in the 90s removed film costs. Smartphones in the 2000s made photography constant and instant. We've gained unlimited documentation certainly, but we've lost that selectivity, that anticipation of developed film, and that preciousness that made physical photos into treasured objects rather than deleted files. Your Christmas tree might have been aluminum, its silver branches reflecting a rotating color wheel that bathed the living room in slow cycles of red, blue, green, yellow. Or it held bubble lights, those tubes of colored liquid that heated up and actually bubbled, mesmerizing and magical. This wasn't just holiday decoration or kitsch. It was the visual anchor of Christmas, the centerpiece that transformed your home into something magical, the tradition that marked time and created the stage for family celebration. Decorating was a family event. Each ornament retrieved from the same boxes yearly, many handmade or decades old. Tinsel applied, strand by strand. The living room smelled of pine. Presents accumulated beneath for weeks. Aluminum trees disappeared in the 80s, considered too artificial. Pre-lit trees arrived in the 90s. Today, trees are design statements, themed and coordinated. We've gained convenience perhaps, but we've lost that specific magic, those particular lights and colors that defined Christmas, and the simple traditions that needed no improvement. Shopping meant downtown, and downtown meant lunch at the department store. After shopping at Woolworth's or JCPenney, you stopped at the lunch counter. You sat on vinyl-covered swivel stools, ordered a grilled cheese from a waitress in uniform who called you honey. Your mother had a tuna salad plate. The lunch counter made the whole experience special. This wasn't just convenience or dining. It was ritual, the transformation of necessary errands into memorable experiences, the understanding that eating together was worth doing properly even during a shopping trip. Department stores were full experiences. The elevator operator announced each floor. Clerks wrapped purchases in paper. You saw neighbors there, teachers, your mother's friends. It was community in action. Malls replaced downtown shopping in the late 70s and 80s. Department stores dropped lunch counters. By the 90s, food courts had replaced proper sit-down counters. We've gained food courts with more variety certainly, but we've lost those civilized pauses, those moments when shopping was about more than consumption, and those lunch counters that turned errands into experiences. When family lived far away, you wrote letters. Actual letters on actual paper with actual pens. Letters arrived with handwriting you recognized on the envelope, stamps you sometimes collected, a tangible connection traveling across distance. This wasn't inefficient communication or old-fashioned formality. It was connection that required effort, that made people choose words carefully, that transformed thoughts into permanent artifacts that could be saved, reread, cherished. Writing letters taught composition, penmanship, consideration. Letters took days to arrive, so patience was built into conversation. You saved letters in shoeboxes, tied with ribbon. Years later, you could reread them, see how handwriting had changed. Email arrived in the 90s, initially complimenting letters. By the 2000s, it had replaced them entirely. Today, handwritten letters are nostalgic rarities. We've gained instant communication, certainly, but we've lost those permanent artifacts, that thoughtfulness born from effort, and those physical objects that could be held and treasured across decades. Thursday night at 8 p.m., everyone was in front of the television. Together. Only one TV meant everyone watched the same programs at the same time. The Waltons on Thursday. Happy Days on Tuesday. The family gathered on the couch, kids on the floor. You watched together, laughed together, discussed what happened during commercials. This wasn't limited entertainment or lack of options. It was shared experience, the nightly ritual that kept families synchronized, the common ground that gave everyone something to talk about, the simple togetherness that modern life has fractured. Special programs were events. The Wizard of Oz once yearly. Charlie Brown Christmas specials. Everyone planned around them, scheduled their evening to be home, made popcorn, watched together. Cable television in the 80s gave more options. VCRs let people watch different things at different times. By the 90s, multiple TVs became standard. Today, everyone streams different content on personal devices, alone. We've gained unlimited choice, certainly, but we've lost that nightly gathering, that shared experience, and that simple togetherness that happened naturally when technology forced families to occupy the same space. These weren't just things or simple memories. They were the fabric of 1970s childhood, the shared experiences that made us who we are, the rituals that defined an entire generation's coming of age. Each one is gone now, replaced by something more convenient, more efficient, more modern, but somehow less warm, less connected, less human. Yes, we've gained so much. Technology has brought incredible advances. Life is easier in countless ways. But scrolling through these memories, don't you feel it? That ache for something we can't quite name. That longing for a time when life moved slower, when families stayed closer, when childhood had space to unfold. If these memories made you cry, it's not because the 70s were perfect. They weren't. It's because they were ours, and they're gone, and you can never go back to your mother's kitchen, to Saturday morning cartoons, to that specific feeling of being a child in that specific moment in American history. But you can remember, and in remembering, keep those beautiful moments alive a little longer.